Hi, you guys. So this week we're talking on the Brown Bag podcast with Mike Lai. Thank you for being our guest.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And as always, Carmen is here, and I'm Monique. Like we always start, we're going to start with what's giving you life. So if you can tell us, or our listeners, what's giving you life right now, who wants to start?
I guess I could jump right in. Something that's been giving me life recently is, well, not recently, but it's always been giving me life, is really my family. I got two little ones. I have a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. And my 9-year-old today just turned 9, and he's in the 3rd grade. And he's having some challenges and some issues in his classroom and with his teacher. And it's really interesting to see him kind of advocate for himself and really start to find his voice. And he even set up like a little meeting with the assistant principal to kind of share his thoughts and stuff. So I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it's just really nice to kind of see him grow and mature and find his little voice, and it was really cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so awesome. Yeah.
Well, it just means that you guys have created a space that he can have a voice and encourage that. It's a big deal.
Absolutely. That's a huge deal.
Yeah. Thanks.
Awesome. How about you, Carmen? What's giving you life?
I was thinking about this morning today about lots of different things, but I think this week the thing that's giving me life is sleep, actually. I made a really bad mistake one day this week and checked my email right before bed. And then I couldn't sleep all night. I was just tossing and turning, just so much anxiety. And it wasn't even a bad email. Probably if I had saw it in the morning, I would just, whatever. But just all in my head and couldn't sleep. And so I've just made a decision to just not check my email before bed, to really try to have a time of that I'm just not going to be on the computer, even though it's hard. I'm sure you guys know as parents too, I'm always up late kind of working. So trying to figure out how to work but not be on my email or just something like that. But so after I did that, I've just gotten a lot better sleep. Yeah. And it's just so, especially just with aging, you just kind of forget how important sleep is, not like a spring chicken that can just go on, go off with 4 hours of sleep a day anymore. I actually need that full 6 to 8. So sleep is giving me life, as strange as that sounds.
Right. It's the most important thing. There's so many studies that says just sleep.
Yes.
Just sleep more. You're upset, sleep more. Your stomach hurts, sleep.
It's always either sleep or water. It's do I need to sleep or do I need some water? One of those two.
I'd rather have sleep. I'm about sleep. I think what's giving me life right now is a distraction. So I got a kitten for my son.
Oh, nice.
Because he was my niece got a kitten, and I'm a cat, dog, I don't care, animal person, right? So I'm not particular about it. But he's never cared about our dog, ever. The dog comes around, he's get away from it, right? But he saw my niece's cat, and he got really excited. And so I was oh, man, this gives him joy. Playing with the cat gives him joy. And it's been so much fun. He runs into the room and he goes, he named her Momo. Aww. He's I love you so much, Momo. You're my kitten, Momo. It's super cute. It's super cute. And so that distraction is giving me a lot of joy. I haven't gotten a lot of work done, but it's giving me
just play with the cat.
Exactly. I'll just watch you. It's not too great.
No, but it's needed though.
Yeah,
it is.
For sure.
It is. It's important.
Well, before we start our interview, I just wanted to shout out our other co-host, Sandra Genera, who isn't here today. She wasn't feeling very well, so we miss her and hope that she will be feeling better and join us at our next recording.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So we're so excited because we have Michael Lai here.
Yes, thank you.
He is the counselor. See, I'm going to embarrass him, and he is not going to like it. He's so modest, but he's a counselor extraordinaire. He wrote a book about how to how to do college, right? Like
Yeah.
in an efficient and cost-effective way, right? It's on Amazon, and I'll let you plug the title. He's also the council coordinator for the Change It Now program, and he founded and is the council coordinator for Movement API.
Yes.
So he has been busy, and I feel like, Mike, you've been here 7 or 8 years?
Yeah, I think I'm in the middle of my 8th year right
In the
now.
middle
That's a
of
lot
8th
of
year,
work in a little time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, he's such a great asset and such a great hire at Chabot. And so we're so excited to have him here today to talk about all the work that he's been doing here at Chabot, but particularly with the Asian American community.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. So just tell us about your journey to becoming a community college counselor. What led you to Chabot?
I don't know if you guys know this, but my own college experience started with the community colleges. So I grew up in Oakland, and I went through all the schools, K through 12, everything. And my parents were immigrants from Vietnam. So, just growing up, they barely were starting to get the grasp of the English language. So they weren't really going to, be able to help me navigate education or college like too much, right? So I wasn't really a good student in high school. I kind of barely graduated. So I think it's natural if you barely graduate from high school and you're not really sure what the next stage is. It's like, go enroll at your local community college, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it brought me to Laney College, right in Oakland. So I want to give a shout out to Peralta. And I don't know what it is about the environment or the classes or the programs, but something clicked for me there. And I was able to get good grades really for the first time in my life. So things started to come together for me, and I was fortunate enough to transfer to Berkeley and get my degree in sociology. And just through all that work, there was something that was always like, there was always a question that kind of lingered with me, was like, I saw a lot of my peers kind of going through their own journeys, and I always wondered why some students were able to kind of navigate the education world and some kind of just in the middle, and then some like really fall into a really dark place, right? So I saw my peers like, 13, 14, 15, and very young ages like already falling into dark places, and I always wondered like, what happened along the way, right? To kind of like, push my peers into these different paths. So I think that question I still carry that close with me today. And after I finished my bachelor's degree, I started working a little bit, but something felt like it was missing. So it was really interesting because I went back to my community college to try to take some business classes or something, and it was actually a community college counselor, and I can't remember her name, but she kind of listened to my interests and my stories, and she was all like, you might want to pursue your graduate degree in college counseling. And at that point, I never even thought about getting a master's degree, right? So that little moment really kind of shifted my whole career path. I went on to get my master's in college and career counseling, did some work with nonprofit and high school students. I did some counseling at UC Berkeley, and then that brought me back to Chabot College with community colleges. And every day I feel really blessed to be in this position, to kind of work with my community in this way, and connect with students from not only a professional level, but really from a personal level too. And today I live in Hayward. My kids go to school here. Wow. My partner works around here. So I really feel like this is like my community. I feel really embraced here. I see my students at the local Target, so that's it's official now, right? You see your students at Target, then now it's official. So now I'm like, okay, this is my home, this is my community, and I just feel really blessed every day.
Awesome, awesome. Man, I love your story. I think it's a lot of it. Were you a barely high school graduate?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I feel like
we're like the table barely graduating.
I feel like a lot of teachers are like that. Either it's like you had like a horrible educational experience, or you were like some type of superstar, right? But like, I think people who have a hard experience kind of know, right? Like how to make school better and like what is needed for folks that really struggle with it, and you get to bring all those gifts. Right?
Yeah. And it's a way that you connect with a lot of the students that come here, right? There are so many reasons why people are barely high school graduates, right? But those reasons are so complex. and so interconnected. And first, I know when I came here, I wanted somebody to understand that. And so I think it's great that they can come and have a counselor that gets it.
Yeah.
It's hard not to feel some sort of camaraderie, like some solidarity in that. So it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful.
I wonder what it was in your story with that counselor that told her that you should become a counselor.
Yeah.
I wonder what she heard.
Well, during that time, I was doing like some community work. I organized some sports stuff for the community. I did some work with like the local elementary school around reading and stuff. So I did a little bit of work around the community, and I also feel like I just owe so much to that, my own experience at the community college level. So I think that kind of came off.
That's awesome. It's so great that she could like see that, That's really awesome. Where do you draw inspiration from in the work that you do? What inspires you?
I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think about what inspires me is really my colleagues. I gotta say, that's a lot. So I work with the both of you, right? So I know a lot of the amazing work that you both do already. And also like my general counseling colleagues, they do a lot of amazing work. I think they get overlooked a lot. I don't think they get enough credit, or I don't think people really fully understand the demands on a general counselor. But they do really amazing work, so they definitely inspire me. Collaborating with the special programs, they've embraced me since I started to work with Change It Now and my work with movement. They fully support and embrace me. So the whole student services department is really a big part of it. And interdisciplinary cross-campus type stuff. Like there's people on campus that's doing really amazing work. I don't even know you as a person, but I've seen your stuff, and that definitely inspires me. And of course our students, right? Like they come in with their experiences, their struggles, their challenges, their strengths, right? And then just their general kind of like hopefulness, right? Of like just seeing community college as that thing that's gonna springboard them to the next level. Like that hopefulness that I kind of was, that really definitely inspires me. And I think lastly is also like my family history too. So I didn't know this about my grandparents, but until they actually passed away and people were talking about them when, when they were younger. And my grandfather was actually a principal and educator in his day. And my grandmother was like a teacher and like provided basic needs to her community. And I was like, wow, I didn't know about all that. And he actually passed on a little statue of like an educator, like an ancient Chinese educator to me. So that's one of my really prized possessions now. And so I almost feel like education is like part of my legacy and like almost like built for this. Like this is my work, like, so it's very, I feel really blessed and it feels really natural to be in this space and doing this type of work.
Nice.
So
What a great legacy. So much better than oil.
Oil barons.
Awesome legacy.
So.
I think you are right though about the people not really understanding general counseling, understanding college counseling. I don't think it was until I started working with Sin and the counselor that was with us before you, Felicia, just getting closer to her and just listening, to what it's like. It's like I just didn't really know. So I think like when we get chances to do that interdisciplinary work, it really helps us understand each other's jobs a lot more for sure. So you brought up, we've kind of been talking a little bit about movement and mentioning it, so now we really want to dive deep into it because it's like this whole new learning community on campus.
Yes.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how Movement API came to be and any challenges that you have faced in developing this learning community.
So thank you for giving me this platform to share about this work. This work is definitely giving me life too. So the Movement Learning Community is the Asian and Pacific Islander learning community here at Chabot College. And since I've been here, I don't think there was a program like this. And it's super exciting. And when I started here, I think it was in 2014, 15, we started to have this conversation already about like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And I was just talking to just different people across campus and stuff, but nothing really came about it. And also with Chabot College, like with Change It Now and Puente and Emoja, like those are such prominent programs at Chabot, and there's just such a very obvious gap, right? When we look at like the student population, like Asian students, Filipino, and Pacific Islanders make up like the second largest student population here. And for a long time, students would ask about that, and the best we could offer was like trio,
Yeah.
right? We would say, oh, a lot of Asian students go to trio, and I was like, is this really the best we could offer? I know my colleague Alan David, who does a lot of outreach with high schools and stuff, like he said he gets that question all the time from students, and he just feels really good about being able to answer that confidently now.
Wow, yeah,
So
I
that's
bet.
been a big difference.
That's great.
So having short conversations, then we were supported by special programs to have the Asian Pacific Islander Education Association. So it's a little bit like institution support there. And I think it would be naive to ignore the rise in anti-Asian hate and violence about like last year or so, and it's still happening right now. So about a year ago, there was this huge, like, I don't know, you call it a movement or campaign or whatever, to highlight the hate and violence targeted towards Asian communities. And I think that kind of sparked something in the campus. And because we're doing some of this work already, it was just prime for us to advocate for this learning community, advocate for writing for an Anapisi grant, and it just was the right time. And I also want to acknowledge that, like, the summer before, our campus went through a lot of equity work around Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. So I don't think the anti-Asian kind of work that we did like last year could have went as well as it did if it wasn't for some of the work that was done over that summer around equity and the Black Lives Matter movement. I do feel like it set up the campus for what we wanted to do, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, like, created a foundation for people to be more aware, right,
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
different issues that all the different groups are facing on campus.
Yeah.
Were there any challenges that you faced in trying to make this happen, or was it just easy peasy the whole time?
It definitely wasn't easy because we talked about this for a long time, and I actually came to a point where I thought it wasn't going to happen. I almost came to terms like it wasn't going to happen, and I think the challenges is you get questioned a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's not just from from outside too. It's like outside, but also from within. Like we get questioned like, students need this. Do Asian students need resources? How does this take away from other groups?
Which is like the go-to always. You're like, yeah, you know.
So, and those questions are very real, right? They're important questions to think about. And I think I do feel fortunate that I had relationships with people working in those other groups. So there was a time where it really could have it could have derailed this work, because there was a moment where, there was a message out there that was like, hey, Mike and, the APIA group is, talking about this and how it impacts resources and stuff. And I just felt really fortunate that I had good relationships and I trusted these people, and we sat down, had a conversation, and they were, going forward, they've been, some of our biggest supporters, and we support their work.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So those are some challenges. But all in all, it's been really good work, and we have a lot of fun with it. I think that's key. Even though when things are challenging, try to have fun with it, right?
Right,
So,
yeah. Do you have any advice that you would want to give to anyone who was trying to start a learning community?
I think, so for anyone who's out there thinking about starting a learning community, I think I had people from Aloni reach out to us, LPC, just kind of hearing about some of the work that we were doing. I think first, you got to talk about it. You got to talk about your idea, whatever it is. Like, find a couple people on campus that are like-minded. And you don't need a super large group, but just a group that's kind of like committed to it. And if you can, try to reach out across the campus. So across disciplines, across classifications, administrators, faculty, classified. And you don't have to start real big either. So there's something really powerful about just small steps, like a meeting, right? An event. And it's just something about those small steps can really be powerful. And then my last piece of advice really is just to have fun, because this work is complicated. There's a lot of pieces to it. We definitely need to have fun and feel good about it to really make this sustainable, I think.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
I think too, part of what you said, like this networking piece is so important, like building relationships, because it pains me every time I hear that thing about like groups almost, being pitted against each other in a way. And that always happens when you get to the business part of an institution because there's money involved, right? And then if you don't have those relationships, all these rumors, and it's easy to really start kind of letting the animosity grow, right? It's like that historically it's been done, used, and successful in breaking movements, right? But when you have relationships, you can be like, do you really have a problem with this? Like I'm really not trying to take anything from you. Like, you can just have a conversation, right? And you can forget about budgets. One of the best things that I learned from Kristen, don't even think about budgets and don't let people make you think about the budgets. Just build from the dream. Right. And then see who's on your page with your dream, right? And tell them, don't think about budgets, don't think about, right? But this is the dream, this is the thing we're trying to do, right? And then if you have enough people behind you, the institution will serve that dream. And then we don't have like this kind of like angry thing. So the networking and the having fun together and the like sharing and like why this is beautiful, that's so important.
Yeah, totally.
And if I could add one more thing,
Yeah.
Just around that issue about like resources and different groups and stuff, if for the leaders or anyone who's taking a leadership type role in these groups, right? I think it's really important that you truly commit to this idea of equity. Like really commit to it, not just throw the word around and stuff like that. Like believe in the philosophy that, hey, when we support those furthest from opportunity, it helps everyone, and make that like a core value in your work. And when everyone does that, it's like it works, But you have to truly believe it, So I think that part is key too.
I think we just live in such a culture of, I don't know, just that there's not enough to go around, rather than having the mindset of abundance, because there is plenty for everybody, There's so much for everybody. So I think when we're just like, we feel very tight and feel like we're not going to have enough, that's just a perspective that is going to kind of breed distrust and breed complex problems between people that don't necessarily even need to be there. Yeah. So much to think about. So the Asian American community, like many other communities of color, have a myriad of cultures within the group. How does your program plan to honor and serve the Asian diaspora? Which I'm probably saying wrong. I never know how to say that one. Diaspora. Diaspora.
Say it however you want.
So that's definitely a challenge that we, as a group, work to navigate all the time. And we know that it's not going to be perfect. So we've already kind of come to terms with that. Even when we were thinking about a name for our group, right? Like we were having the hardest time because of that diversity across even this, like the API term and, the problems that can come with that. So yes, it is a challenge. It's something we work with and struggle with and talk about all the time. And I feel like one thing we do is that something that we do well is that we're honest about it, right? Like we're doing our best. We're not going to be perfect. We are going to seek out the data. We're going to disaggregate it. We have the resources for it. We have the people who's willing to do that work. So we do it, and at the end, we'll still do our best, right? And with the whole term API, like when I was the faculty advisor for Asians Unite, which is the Pacific Islander student group, I learned so much from that student group. Like that was like working with them was a game changer. Even like movement API, like you would hear me, I don't even add the API part to it. You would hear me say only movement, right? And I'll spell out the rest, like the Asian and Pacific Islander, learning community. So I'm hoping that catches on. But if we don't include the API part, then sometimes people don't always recognize it, right? So we're always kind of like trying to balance that. Now, we're also really fortunate to have the director of student life as a core member in our group. So we are working to encourage students to start clubs that speak directly to their experience.
That's a great idea.
So that's probably one of our goals for this upcoming year. for a time, we had a number of Asian and Pacific Islander clubs on campus. It kind of trickled down because of COVID and all that. But that's definitely one of our goals, is to really bring that back up and really support all those different student clubs. That's our goal.
Beautiful.
And I imagine you have, so just to get the kind of components of movement, so you have you that's teaching a PSCN counseling class, right? And then Samantha Rajaram that does the English. Is she doing like 1 in 7 or 1 in 4 like the whole year?
Yeah, so Samantha's teaching English 1 this fall, and then she's going to teach English 4A in the spring.
In the spring.
So, yep, that is a motto that we picked up from Change It Now. It's working awesome.
Everyone does it and wants to do it too, right? And then Kay, is she doing like an intro to ethnic studies, or is she doing like an Asian American history? Or?
Yeah, so the Asian American history class is a 2-part class. So it's Ethnic Studies 42. It's like an earlier period of Asian American history, and then there's 43 in the spring, which is like a later part. So it's very much connected. So, and then I teach a college success class in the fall, and I teach a career development class in the spring. So we have this kind of 1-year program set up.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's opportunities to really explore the diaspora in the history and the English class, right? By pulling all kinds of different resources.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and actually our next move really is, like, we have 1 Pacific Islander studies class.
Right.
So that's one. That's a good start. But what we really want to do is like create a PI class that's focused on like arts and humanities, right? Or a different aspect of their culture and experience. So we really want to expand the offerings of Pacific Islander classes, and also build a closer connection to the PI community in Hayward.
So when you say we, are you talking about the people in movement, or like the APIE, the Asian Pacific Islander Education Association?
So it's mostly the people in movement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in the past, the PIA group, right, APIEA, we did everything under that umbrella.
Right.
So, but now that we have movement, we could kind of split this work up, where movement is a little bit more focused on student support and student experiences, and then the PIA is focused on like staff development, which is also like something it's important, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so good to have those like support networks involved, right?
Absolutely.
To help the program. So the name of the learning community movement, API, definitely sends a social justice vibe. What is the relationship between the Asian American community and social justice / activism, and how will that legacy be a part of the learning community?
Yeah, so I don't have a background in like ethnic studies or history or anything like that, so I'm not going to go there. But I would say that the Asian American community has a very rich history of activism. I would say that, and it often gets overlooked, I think. So now, and with that said, when we came up with the name movement, it was developed with the intention of connecting it to the Asian American movements back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and today. So the name movement is a connection to those movements back then. And in addition to that, we also thought about movement as like, a symbol of like migration and changing places.
Right.
And that's like a shared experience for a lot of us. And so that's how the name came about. The social justice aspect of it, I gotta say, we are committed to ethnic studies. That's a core value of ours. We promote it every chance we get at all levels, K through 12, whatever it is. We believe it should be at all levels. And it's a big part of our class. And the reason why we're so committed to it is because I think it teaches people to like humanize each other, right? So it runs counter to like stereotypes and racism and stuff. It's like a remedy for that, right? So that's why we're so committed to ethnic studies. The faculty in movement are amazing people. They have really strong backgrounds. Like Drew, our Pacific Islander faculty person, he does a lot of work around the PI community in Daly City and all these other colleges. So he brings a well-rounded like set of experiences. Kay Fisher, she has a background in community organizing. Y'all know her, she does amazing work. And Samantha has a background in law, and she does like, social justice type law work before. So And with my background in counseling, I'm all about like student wellness and development and stuff. So I feel like the four of us kind of bring a different element of social justice and activism, but it kind of blends together well.
Right.
And going forward with movement, I think we're going to be working on these goals simultaneously, where we're working to build communities, build community for our students, but also start to build bridges with other learning communities on campus. So that's really the goal and direction that I'm hoping to take in these upcoming years.
Yeah. So exciting. So you've been involved in supporting Asian American students at Chabot for years now. What are some of the issues that Asian American students are facing, and how can the Chabot community better support Asian American students?
Yeah, so I think stereotypes of Asian American students is something to pay attention to. Sometimes I come across people who almost make it seem like Asian American students or Asian students and academic success is like automatic. And it's problematic in a couple ways, because one, it diminishes like the work and the sacrifice that Asian students do make, those who do achieve success. And those who don't achieve success, it kind of brings a lot of shame and a lot of like questioning of themselves. And it also reinforces this idea of like, they got it, they don't really need it. So we are working really hard to kind of look at the data and look at exactly what our students need. And so just that idea of stereotypes, I think, is like an overarching issue to pay attention to. But our students experience things like poverty, like pretty serious poverty. I think there's a huge like wealth gap in the Asian community. We experience citizenship issues. So we were able to collaborate with the Dream Center around Undocumented Student Week. That was awesome collaboration. So citizenship is an issue that sometimes gets overlooked. Violence. Our students are experiencing a lot of violence that people don't always hear about. I think those are all issues to think about, and the one that brings it together is that sometimes I feel like people view the Asian community as different. Like, oh, they're just so different. I can't connect with them and stuff like that. And I think we just have to kind of give it a little bit more time and opportunities to kind of share experiences. And once we do that, I think very quickly we will see that, we're not that different,
Right.
And there's a lot that we can kind of connect on and collaborate on too.
Right.
So, yeah.
I learned so much from Kay when we saw the violence that was happening over the summer aimed at the Asian community. I grew up in the Bay Area, and some of these things happened in the Bay Area, but it's, like many of the things that you're taught in school, right? This was not one of the things, right? This
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I just wish people would just unite against white supremacy. That's actually what the problem is.
Right.
That's the big problem.
right.
I was thinking it was really interesting when you were talking about kind of Asian American stereotypes and like that there's students that do really well and like there's a lot of sacrifice that they put in, and then there's the students that maybe are struggling and how like those stereotypes diminish it. And it just made me think about like how challenging, it might be. And I guess this is for anybody, but it seems maybe particular to movement, just that like meeting those needs, So how do you support students that are doing well and maybe their needs aren't as visible, right? Like how do you figure out like, is it emotional support that they need? Do they need to know that they can chill? Or like what is it exactly that is going to help them? Because I think in our society, our capitalist society, there's so much pressure on productivity and excellence. And there's such a story that's put out that like, if you're not excellent, if you're not the best, you're not going to succeed. And people, suffer under that, right? And so how do you really work with students to help them with that stuff, right? And then that's something, might even be something different that a student that's really struggling needs, right? Sometimes they need to be told that they can do well, or I don't know. So it just seems like a very, a complex, complex problem to try to grapple with for you all, and I guess for all of us in a lot of ways. But it seems like just from what you were talking about in regards to stereotypes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think everything that we've brought up, it really applies to really a lot of groups across, across the board. And what you just described about like how do we work with each student depending on where they're at, that sounds like my my counseling sessions
Yeah,
like
right,
all
right.
the time, and it's really just comes down to that, and it's the whole thing about like just humanizing each other. It's all good. Like that's the idea. Like no matter where you're at, So it just reassuring them that way.
Yeah.
And our institution, I mean, just any institution doesn't really lend itself to humanizing. So that's like so much the work that we do as individuals here, right? And I think trying to humanize each other as well as our students. I feel like sometimes we don't,
Yeah.
We can do that with our students, but we aren't always able to do that with each other. Well, I'll just ask a final question, just like how can people on Chabot support movement?
I do want to give the campus a lot of credit. I do want I'll do that. So so far I feel like the campus has supported us, pretty well. Nothing's perfect. No one's perfect, but all in all, I feel like the campus has supported us pretty well. I think one thing is to really offer more opportunities to kind of like cross-collaborate across groups.
Yeah.
And I mean, it took a while to kind of get this learning community going, but now that it's here, we have all the elements to make that happen. Trying to set up some space, like a multicultural center, some spaces where we could share and collaborate and have shared events. And yeah, so that's really, I think, will be really powerful, is really to set up more opportunities for groups to come together. And we have the right people to lead that.
Yeah.
I feel like we have really strong people across the campus that I think we're primed for that.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to do anything too specific, but that's the direction I'm hoping we're headed in.
Nice.
Thanks for being with us, Mike, and answering all these questions. I just felt like I learned so much, and it was great to just get a fuller picture of movement and what you all are doing over there.
Yes,
I wish
thank
I
you.
could be in there. I want to be a student.
Yeah, it's definitely been nice to get to know you more too. I see you in all the meetings, and like we're always in similar rooms, but we've never been able to like really talk. And I really appreciate all that you shared with us. It was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is just the beginning for movement. I'm really excited for the next stage, and honestly, both of you have provided a lot of support for this too. So you all are contributing to this movement.
Yeah, and we'll keep doing it. Anytime you need something, you let us know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we have to do our exit ticket, and that's our recommendations. So what we do is we recommend something that people pick up or do or watch or read or something like that to kind of, well, I don't know if it's like just joy, but it could be joy, knowledge, whatever. So anybody want to offer an exit ticket?
Well, I have one that, and I guess I'm like the resident
You're the show
TV watcher, but something me and my daughter have been watching is the Colin Kaepernick series on Netflix right now. It's really good. I thought it was going to be kind of corny, but it's so good. It's really all about times he experienced racism in his young life. And so he does this thing where he's like sharing a memory, and they're, it's a show. So like they're doing it. And then he talks throughout it about racism and white supremacy. It's really, and I was like, boy, I don't know why they let you do this, but this is really dope because it's very it's pretty radical. He talks about the, do you remember the doll test? You guys have heard of that? Yeah. So he talks about that and everything. I'm just like, wow, this is mind blowing. So I think especially it's a good show to watch with your children. I mean, maybe like 10 to 14-ish, because we've had some really good me and my daughter have had some good conversations about it, but it's really good. I like totally recommend it.
Cool.
I'm going to get on that one.
Yeah, it's good.
I for my exit ticket or recommendation, I think the word self-care has been thrown around a lot, but the way I want us to think about it is really making a priority, like truly making a priority, like prioritize like your self-care and healthy eating and all that stuff. Prioritize it over your work, prioritize it over your responsibilities, prioritize it over like your community goals, financial goals, whatever it is, like really prioritize it every single day. And also take it 24 hours at a time. Like, don't worry about things too far ahead. And if we string enough 24 hours together in a row, I really think something powerful and beautiful can happen. So 24 hours at a time.
Nice. It's like your mantra.
Yeah. You should have been here for our spa talk.
Yeah.
I think my exit ticket is going to be opposite of yours. You said healthy eating. I don't know. Are tacos healthy?
Yeah. So.
I recommend tacos. All different flavors. Like, try each flavor of tacos and then figure out which one you love the best and have more of those. That's my exit.
Do you have a taco spot that you like?
I do. So I'm from Hayward, so I'm all over the place. But Tacos Urupan is like over there on Gadding and Industrial. And their fish tacos are the best. Like their shrimp tacos are hella good. And then Tacos Eduardo's, or Taqueria Eduardo's, is right by my house, and they have everything is good. They're just all kinds of places. Just go grab a taco from somewhere in Hayward. You won't be disappointed. You won't be disappointed.
Maybe that's what we should all go do right now.
Get some tacos. That's right. All right, well, thank you guys for being here and for talking together, and maybe we'll talk to you more, right?
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Good job.
You listen.